Adam, you're with the U.S. State Department and you do public diplomacy. What does that mean?
Well, it basically means trying to communicate what the United States is about and what the United States believes in to audience overseas and improve understanding.
So you're based in London. The messages, where are you targeting these messages?
Well, I've just recently taken up the position in London, and this is a new initiative that the U.S. government is taking, because we realized that we've done a really bad job of communicating to audiences in Europe and the Middle East. So what we've done is we've created an office in Dubai, an office in Brussels, and supervised by an office in London. And the job of these offices is to get American officials on the air, on TV and radio in Europe and the Middle East, to participate in the discussions that Europeans and Middle Eastern people have been having for a long time about issues of the day that involve the United States, so that we can contribute to that dialogue, listen, and maybe improve understanding. Now, that doesn't mean that people are going to agree with us, and frankly, the purpose of this is not to get people to like the United States, because, as many readers of The Guardian understand, the United States, they don't agree with the United States, they don't agree with the policies. But for us, what's important is that there be an informed public out there, and we've done a really bad job of communicating that public, because we haven't been on TV, we haven't been on radio, we haven't been participating in the debates that are going on in these regions, and it's important that we start doing it.
So it's a 24-hour global news cycle,
right?
And you've got CNN, you've got Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, a million satellite channels, it seems. How can you monitor those messages and see what's being said about you?
Well, it's not hard to monitor when they're calling you up all the time asking for comment. I mean, I'll give you an example. A couple of Mondays ago, I forget which one it was, we woke up in London to reports that North Korea had tested a nuclear weapon. Our phones were ringing off the hook. And remember, it was like 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning in Washington time, looking for comment. What does the United States think? Is this a failure of U.S. diplomacy? Are we all going to get blown up? You should have kept talking to South Korea. So we know we're in a 24-hour news cycle because they constantly remind us we are. Now, in the past, what we've done is we've kind of waited until Washington wakes up. Under this new system, we're going to go out there right away and say, hey, this is what our understanding is, this is how we see it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the State Department is trying to catch up to the 21st century. We have been historically communicating with a 20th century mindset. And a 20th century, actually a 19th century institution, in a 21st century world. We are making up for lost time, and we've got a long way to go, but we're trying to do it.
So Adam, I mean, there's some Guardian readers, it's not just an issue of perception, but I mean, they absolutely, strongly disagree with U.S. foreign policy when it comes to, let's say, Israel and Palestine, or when it comes to the war in Iraq. I mean, what amount of diplomacy can actually smooth over those fundamental disagreements?
There are always going to be fundamental disagreements. The fact of the matter is, not everyone's going to agree with our policies, but what's important, and the contribution public diplomacy can make, is it can, I think, lead to a more fuller understanding and a fuller appreciation of our position. Let's take the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. I think there are probably a lot of Guardian readers whose position it is the United States is too pro-Israel and doesn't have a balanced enough foreign policy vis-a-vis the Palestinians. Well, and we can explain why we're pro-Israel. I'm certainly not going to deny or back away from that. But what readers may not understand, or viewers may not understand, or may not be aware of, is that no country gives more to the Palestinians than the United States, and it's been that way for close to a decade. That we are the largest single contributor country to the Palestinians in terms of humanitarian assistance and aid. So, the issue here is, I think, one of balance and one of filling in shades of gray, because when you talk about policies and when you talk about things that people really care about, I think it gets too easy to sort of deal in generalities and to accept dogma as truth. And our job as American officials and as public diplomatists is to try to provide as much information and provide as much perspective as possible, so that when people form an opinion and come to a conclusion, not that is pro-American, obviously that would be great, but that it is based on, I think, a fuller, more complete understanding of all the aspects of the issue.
Now, one thing that you said in the hall was that, there's times when you've got to be maybe a little more humble about things, or the United States, is there a greater recognition of how messages inside the U.S. play externally? Because some things that play well with the U.S. domestic media, some of the sort of simply worded statements by the administration don't necessarily translate well in Europe.
Yeah, I think there is. What I said earlier is a little humility goes a long way in diplomacy, and it was in response to a question about why does everybody hate the United States? I think one reason that there, if you look at opinion polls, there are such negatives when they talk about America or the present administration or whatever it is because they see us as arrogant, and they see us as sort of dictating our will to the rest of the world. I think that that's based on, again, as I was saying in another question, based on a very incomplete understanding of the facts, and why we welcome the opportunity to talk about that. But back to the point that you said about how an understanding of how messages in America play overseas. I mean, yeah, the fact is it's a global marketplace and it's a global media, and you've got to. And I think we have not done a good job of this, frankly. You've got to think of foreigners and think of non-Americans when you're communicating, because if we've got a lot of resistance and hostility towards us in the Middle East and towards us in Europe, then that's going to hurt what we're trying to do around the world. It's going to hurt trying to build the kind of consensus, trying to build shared vision for a peaceful, democratic, prosperous future in the Middle East. And so we've got to be mindful of how people perceive us. Yet at the same time, I think it's also important to point out that, look, this is not a popularity contest. The fact of the matter is, the United States stands for certain principles, and we are going to stick by those principles regardless of what public opinion polling says. We believe in democracy, we believe in freedom, we believe in opportunity, we believe that women should be educated and have the right to work wherever they are, and that only an empowered, educated population, both men and women, can contribute to long-term peace and stability. We're not going to walk away from that or back away from it just because they think it's an unpopular American idea. We're going to stick by our principles, we're going to stick by what we believe is right, but at the same time, we think it's important to have a dialogue with foreign audiences, to hear what they're saying, to respond to their concerns, to make our case as effectively and persuasively as we can. If they agree with us, great. If they don't agree with us, well, at least we've tried to make a difference, and we're going to continue to do what we think is right.